Welcome everybody to our last conversations from home from this amazing segment that we created with Awakening the Senses and all the participants to share wisdom, to share different modalities in regards to healing. You know, how can we make healing accessible to all of us? And for our last session, we have this beautiful person, Sia-Lanu from England. But you're Australian, but you're living in England at the moment. Welcome to Conversations from Home, Lanu.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we haven't met personally, but we've been seeing things about each other. And especially, I've been following you, some of the stuff that you do, the activations, and I've done a few. And I know that you also wrote a book about rainbow tablet, and I'm fascinated with rainbows too. I mean, I actually was under a rainbow once, and it was all pink. I actually drove under a rainbow, and I knew that it was a rainbow, and it was just amazing. And then I kept driving. So I had an experience with rainbows. So yeah, welcome. And if you want to tell us a little bit about all this.
Yeah, sure. So, well, I guess I've been on this path for a lot of years. I was very open as a child and as a teenager, as so many of us are. We come in really connected. You know, you look at children, you only have to watch children and you can see how connected they are. They really live from the heart, you know, they haven't learned judgment yet. Everyone's their friend, everyone's beautiful. They connect with nature, they see the magic all around them. So like most people, I was like that. And I was quite psychically open in my gifts. But like so many of us, it was kind of conditioned out of me. It wasn't socially acceptable, you know, and this is decades ago. It's a bit different now. And I learned to be as normal as I could be, which essentially, as again, with most of us, meant wearing masks, you know, having two personas, having my real self and then having the person that the world expected me to be and that was acceptable, you know, in the workplace and everything. And it was really hard because, you know, when we live like that, we're disconnected in the heart, you know, because we're not being authentic in ourselves, and we've taken on the judgments of you know, society and social conditioning. So it can cause this kind of fragmentation within ourselves. And I think so many of us have experienced it as adults, where we get to that point and we sit down and we think, I don't know if I know who I really am anymore. You know, we've had to wear so many hats and present ourselves in so many different ways that it's like, where am I in all of this? You know, where did I go? And so for me, that journey back to wholeness, which is actually what the book is called. I don't know if you can see this in the light, but it's the Rainbow Tablets Journey Back to Wholeness, is all about coming back to the heart. Yeah, really coming back to our truth and who we are. And so for me, the journey was kind of, I think it had been building for a lot of time. I was definitely getting a call. I knew my soul was calling me to live in Peru. And I'd been going back and forth for 12 years. And I'd always come back to Australia and said, that's it, I'm going to move to Peru. And then my parents were very good at talking me out of it. But to take ownership, I let them, because there was that fear. There was that fear of stepping into something so different and following something, because I think we get so used to, again, the comfort zone and what we're supposed to be, that branching out and saying, actually, I'm going to take my own path can be really quite scary. So it happened for me just over 3 years ago. I was called to, I had gradually come more and more into my calling. You know, I was starting to leave my career, my corporate career behind, and I was guided to take a retreat to Peru. And when I got there, the most sacred mountain in Cusco told me that I was needed on that land and I needed to move there. And this is a mountain, like, for anyone who thinks, what, a mountain told you something? You know, everything around us is consciousness. And again, I go back to when we were kids, we knew this, you know, like kids talk to the trees, they talk to the flowers, they see fairies, you know, they feel the energy of the water. It's just that we forget as adults. But as I had come back to it and I was returning to myself, I was able to connect with that sacred consciousness around us, and especially, you know, mountains, sacred sites. Like I say, the trees, they're such incredible guardians. So anyone who lives in Cusco knows that this mountain, he's like the head honcho. Yeah, he's the most powerful apu. They call it an apu, which is the great mountain spirit. He's the most powerful apu in all of Cusco state and the second most powerful in all of Peru. So if he asks you to do something, you better be ready to say yes. And I kind of realized, I did resist. I resisted for a number of days. And then at the end of it, I thought, this has been yearning from my heart for 12 years now. I'm going to say yes. And this has become my motto now, say yes, you know. So I went back to Australia. I sold everything that I had, my apartment, everything, quit my job, the whole lot. And, you know, it was a death and a rebirth, really. And then I went to Peru, and it was the most incredible experience of my life. The first year was really tough. I really, the land there, anyone who's been to Peru or any of those really sacred lands knows that when the land works with you, and especially when you give yourself in service, you say, I want to, you know, bring into being my highest path. You know, I'm all in, you know, the land will help you. And for a lot of us, that means breaking down all of the social conditioning, breaking down the ego, so that, you know, the tendencies for attachment, for expectations, for control. Control was a big one for me. I think because I'd always felt that I couldn't live authentically, I had really thought, well, I can at least be in control of my life. You know, I'm steering. I wanted to plan and you know all of the eventualities that could possibly happen. And the truth is, that's all illusion. If COVID has taught us anything, it's that, you know, release this fictional concept of control. And so, you know, letting that go as part of the ego death, it then allows us to come back to this very connected way of living, this way of, like, instead of living through the head, which is what society tells us to do, to pre-think everything, to actually live from a place of being, of feeling, of allowing. And yeah, I mean, it's been a wild ride, but it has brought so much beauty. And in the space of 3 years, I would say I've gone through more growth than probably the 15 years before that, you know. And this is where the remembering came for me, you know, the remembering of everything that is shared in this book, and everything that I share online and with everyone. It was that commitment to say yes to my highest path and to let go of all of those external expectations and fragmentations that were not part of myself, and then to reconnect into the heart and say, this is who I am, and I'm going to walk my path, and I'm going to allow it to be in its greatest magic. That's when it all shifted for me.
So it's a real surrendering, and also complete service. It's like, yeah, this is what I'm here for. You know what I mean? Like, really present.
Absolutely. And, really, and I just want to say that being in complete service, I mean, this is what it looks like for me. I'm an author. I run retreats both online and physically. You know, I do online courses to help people and everything, and mentorships. This is what it looks like for me. But highest service doesn't have to be working in this space. You are in your highest service in whatever industry you choose to express that. You know, I've got clients who are school teachers, oncologists, marketing professionals,
parents.
Yeah, like, exactly, you know, like, we can be in our highest service in any role and in any area. It's about the allowing our greatest gifts and our greatest truth to flow through. Yeah, so it doesn't mean that you have to do what I do. I'm not saying to everyone the only way to be in your high service is to like give up everything and move to the other side of the world. Absolutely not. That was just my path. But it's about that commitment of being in authenticity. And, you know, one thing that I see that is so beautiful from my clients who are in the corporate space is that this is so needed, you know, and I saw it myself my last year in the corporate space when I decided I'm not going to be two separate people anymore. I'm going to be authentic. You know, we all think we have to play a role in those corporate spaces because that's kind of what we've been told. You know, you're in the power suit and you present yourself in a certain way, but we're all people. We're all having this human experience and we're all remembering in our own way. And so some have access and we all have gifts to share, right? So we're all here to lift each other. It's a massive co-creation. And when we actually share from that place of authenticity, that's when we really lift each other. So when we mask it and we suppress it and we kind of like keep it from other people, it means that we're actually denying others that chance to receive that. But when we're open and we're authentic and we can, you know, navigate those spaces and bring that energy into whether it be a parenting role or it be a professional role or whatever it might be, it is a beautiful gift to everyone around us because it gives them a chance to reconnect to their own heart, to reconnect to their own truth and to start to unlock things that maybe they too have had to either push down or not remember.
Babe, you were going to ask something? Christian.
Now, what's really beautiful too, Sia, and this is when you talked about control and you talked about how, but it's, you know, when the people talk about that when the stars are aligned, Nancy and I were planning these conversations, particularly this month of October, like 2 months out. Mm-hmm. Lo and behold, the fact that you went and started talking about Cusco and Apus and stuff this week, just this week, and we talked to someone that had also been in Cusco, but it was the Spanish radio program, and we started talking about the, you know, the Cusco teachings and how the Apus and things like that, and how you, and in particular, when she was talking about the mountains, Las Montañas, and it's so beautiful that somehow, you know, without even planning it, the stars align this you know, these things show us these experiences. The universe tells us so many things, and yet in today's society, and without being too judgmental, today's society, people don't necessarily look for that. They don't trust their intuition because they're very much in their heads and they don't look at what the divinity brings into their lives.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I got goosebumps as you were saying that because, you know, I think one of the things that we struggle with in modern society, and I have this unique vantage point where I've actually lived in both now. You know, I spent 3 years in Peru and the rest of my life up until that point had been in Australia, mostly in Sydney. And I think the thing is, we all know that there's more to it, right? We all know we have this inner connection that is just, it is just this remembering that is part of our essence. But most of us have not been grown up to nurture or express that, you know? So in modern societies, we tend to be very disconnected from the land. We don't, you know, this is the biggest contrast for me when you go up into the mountains and you sit with the incredible genuine shamans, you know, when you sit in ceremony and you honor the land and you speak to the land and, you know, you connect in this incredibly magical way. And I'm not lying, like miracles happen. Miracles happen. I shared with people recently that I had to get out of Peru. We'd been in lockdown for almost 4 months. Borders were closed. We had the strictest lockdown in the world, I believe. It was more than even people have seen in Melbourne. And it was very intense. And at the time I had a situation come up that was, I needed to be access to first world medical assistance. And so I was desperately trying to get out, and there was no way, because Australia wasn't sending repatriation flights. The UK repatriation flights were only for EU citizens and residents, and they were not flexible on that at all. And so a couple of things happened. A situation had come up to me that would give me an exemption, but we still couldn't get it across the line. So we went to the mountain and we sat in ceremony and we asked the mountain to clear the pathway. Firstly, I asked the mountain if that pathway was blessed and it was for the highest good, and the answer was yes. And then, you know, we asked the mountain to clear the pathway. Within 6 days, I was on a flight, you know. So this is not just a case of airy fairy, oh, it's beautiful. I mean, it is, you know, it is beautiful to have this connection, but this is very real. When we live in this deep state of connection, we awaken this magic, you know, that is about this flow of energy and this co-creation. We are not separate to the earth, you know. And I think in modern day, when we live in houses or apartments, you know, we buy our food off the shelves without even, you know, kind of having any connection with the land where it's grown. It's not common practice to sit in ceremony and to honor the land. We're just, you know, so disconnected, and also quite disconnected from each other. I know that that's shifting now, and it's so wonderful. But, you know, for such a long time in modern society, we actually don't want to see our neighbors, because it's like, oh, I just don't have the energy to have a conversation right now. And, you know, and we just want to like go to work, do what we have to do, perform in the way that we need to perform, and then go home, turn on the TV, relax, you know, and have a glass of wine. That's most people's routine. And there's no connection in that. There's no, there's no co-creation in that. It's like being a hamster in a wheel, you know? And so that's what I believe these sacred sites and these sacred lands are really reaching out to stir that remembering that's in all of us, because it's in our ancestral lines. No matter how far you have to go back, eventually you're going to get back to that connection with the earth as a living, breathing consciousness, and everything around us as consciousness. And when we remember that, not only do we honor it in a different way, and we start to really appreciate and come into gratitude in a incredibly transformational way, but we co-create. We learn that nothing is in isolation. And I think, Christian, you know, this thing with the control comes from a deep source of disconnection. We feel in the majority that we're doing this on our own. And if I'm not on top of it, then it's all going to fall to pieces, you know, because that's what we're led to think. And we might have a partner, and yeah, we're in it together with the partner, but it's just the two of us in the whole world, you know. But this is not true at all. We are never alone in anything, apart from the fact that all of us are connected. We're all brothers and sisters all across the world. We're connected with the land. We're connected with the land. We're connected with the higher realms, you know, whatever name you want to use, Great Spirit, universe, whatever. The star brothers and sisters, you know, there is so much around us. And when we come out of this modern day bubble of disconnection, that's when we can come really into that remembering. And that's why I think, you know, these beautiful magical alignments work, because even if we just take baby steps, baby steps, more of the magic starts to emerge. And it's like this glorious unfolding back into this remembering and this divine way of living.
And it's really connecting more, you know, to the heart. And we always say, you know, that when we're trying to understand this way of living, we can't understand it with our minds. You know what I mean? We can't understand it with the intellect. We just have to allow the heart to take over, because we all experience things like that. You know what I mean? Even the closest people, you know, or more intellectual people, they still experience them as well. It's just that they try to find an explanation, or they disregard it. So it's about really about being more curious and paying more attention, and being more humble, really, you know,
Yeah.
not thinking that I know it all and I have to explain everything with my head, just being a bit more humble, you know?
Yeah, and I think as well, to add to that, it's about giving ourselves permission, you know? As Christian said, it's about this thing about intuition. Everyone has it. Everyone has it, you know, and there are those that follow it and just are like, oh, my intuition's saying this, and they just follow it, you know, and that's how I live. I didn't always, though. I've always had very strong intuition, but I certainly went through that period of intellectualizing. So you almost talk yourself out of it. And I hear this a lot from people of like, how do I know the difference between a thought and intuition, you know? And the truth is, as you're saying, Nancy, it's through the heart, you know, when we take out, I think we get ourselves tied up in knots when we try to intellectualize things. Think life is so much more simple than we realize, you know, and bringing into being what we want is so much more simple than we realize. It's like everything around us is supporting our highest good and it's supporting our highest path. But we've been led to believe, you know, there's all these narratives in society that we take on, like, unless you fight for it, you won't get it. You've got to work hard to get where you want to go. And, you know, all of these stories that tell us that it's a struggle, you know, and so we take them on as we're growing up. So sometimes if something just seems very simple or it seems clear, we think, oh, well, no, that can't be right, you know, and we kind of like bring it up into the mind. Or sometimes, as you say, there's not a rational reason for something. We may be feeling like I need to, you know, this happened to me a lot once I moved to Peru. I would suddenly feel this, I need to go to this country and I need to just like book a flight and go there. And I'm like, but why am I going there? What am I doing? What am I seeing? Like what? And I didn't have the answers for it, but I knew my heart was saying, you need to go there. And then I would book the flight, I would get there, and then everything would unfold and it would be beyond anything that I could have imagined. And that's the thing, you know, when we give ourselves permission to listen to the heart and to listen to those feelings and honor them without questioning them, you know, so when we're feeling that, well, is this just a thought or is this something real? You know, dropping into the heart and allowing ourselves to connect. So this can be in so many different ways, through meditation, through ceremony, through connection with the land, just being out in nature, you know, free dance, anything that basically just gets us out of that headspace, gets us into the body, gets us into presence and the moment. Then from there we can connect in and we know, you know, we know. And then that's when we do follow that, we see that incredible things unfold that we never could have planned for ourselves. Yeah, because I feel like when we're looking at it from our intellect or our rational approach, we're looking through a pinhole, right? We're like, okay, that's all the possibilities that are available. But when we connect with the heart, we connect with the cosmic consciousness and we come into that greatest co-creation. And all of a sudden that pinhole is actually like this big. And that's why the possibilities that can be brought forward exceed anything we could have imagined.
And it's really aiming peace, you know, because sometimes, like you were saying, how do I know when it's my mind or intuition? And really intuition is peace, really, this silence, you know, when I need to go there, I don't know why, but I know that it just feels right. So, but like you were saying, it's just continuously training ourselves to, it's like a muscle, you know, just developing that muscle stronger, stronger. The more we do it, the more we trust it.
Yeah, exactly. Trust is really key. And as you say with the peace, I think that's a really important piece of the puzzle because, you know, where a lot of us in everyday life are used to like this constant going over things, you know, thinking of every different scenario, pulling it apart, analyzing. And it does keep us very in the heads, but it also keeps us out of the present moment, right? So we are usually either reflecting on something, so we're in the past, or we are anticipating something or planning something. But rarely, you know, this stuff is rarely in the moment, because in the moment there is just stillness. In the moment there is just being, you know, and so when we can create that stillness, and it does mean, you know, for some people, for most of us actually, as we're starting to break these old patterns, it does mean that we have to interrupt these old patterns in some way. So bringing in some new practices to help us to connect with that feeling of peace, because a lot of us, you know, unless we work at it, have never experienced that stillness. We've always been, you know, like ruminating over something, or on the go, or thinking of the next 6 things on the to-do list. So unless we take on some sort of practice, whether it be, like I say, yoga, meditation, jogging, you know, something that brings us into the now. Even a lot of like, a lot of creation things are very much a form of active meditation. So, you know, painting or you know, like sewing or stitching or woodwork or anything like that, because you're so present with the task of what you're doing that it's like the mind just
comes down.
And when we start to cultivate that stillness and that peace, that's when our inherent knowing, our just complete knowing of everything that is and everything that is right for us can bubble up to the surface.
I think what's really interesting, Sia, that trusting, it's we talk a lot about surrender. Mm-hmm. And surrendering to the unknown. I know my journey over the last year, like this year's obviously been a very, very difficult year for many people, and it has been quite a difficult year for us too in the family. Many different changes, work from home, kids coming to working homeschooled, and that's really challenged a lot of the, for at least personally for me, has challenged a lot of that control. And what's been really interesting for my journey, in December I was doing a lot of work about my ancestral heritage, and really connected to the Atacama Desert and the northern part of Chile, which is where some of my, you know, indigenous, and ironically that journey has given me this real passion to connect to that part. And what I think's been really interesting, I did a men's retreat about a month ago, and I wrote Atacama. In fact, have I got it here? There you go. Look, I happen to have it here, right? Atacama. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
I used that as my warrior name. And there's been a handful of different connections to this whole Atacama thing. We did a workshop part of this month on the pineal gland, and the particular method that was being used was taken from basically from Atacameños, from people from that part of town. And I even did the ice challenge, and there was so much of me that really connected to that sense of warrior, about being able to handle the elements of the coldness and the desert, and somehow this sense of the Atacama and connection back to nature really brought me, I don't know, it's really created that almost that being centered in some respect. And it's amazing during that process, whilst things have been very difficult and other times, so much has manifested this year. Okay? Whilst going through some difficult moments, a lot has manifested, and it's almost like we're at the other end of it right now, where there's all these things that have just blossomed, and all these other doors that have opened. And it's almost, and ironically, it was about my journey wanting to connect to my masculine side. And I think that's what's really beautiful about this connection with nature and the connection with oneself. It almost gave me this persona almost, to be able to surrender to whatever, and so many doors and so many beautiful experiences started to flourish.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And you know, so for those who don't know, the book is Channelings from the Rainbow Race, and they talk about this exact thing. And it's something that I've also experienced myself, is that part of this not being able to trust ourselves and not being able to trust the universe, which is essentially when we go into that surrender, it's that coming back to trust. But part of what has taken that away from us is this disconnection. with nature, and it manifests in our lives through the comfort zone. So they talk about, you know, how from a young age as babies, our parents are always wanting to like make us comfortable. So if it's cold, they put on the heater. If it's like, you know, hot, they put on the air conditioning. And, you know, we're not connected with the ebbs and flows of the natural environment. We disconnect from it and we regulate ourselves, you know, in a certain area. But the thing is, we are of nature, you know, we are of the earth. We will return to the earth. And when you go to these indigenous cultures, you see like the kids, it's snowing and the kids are out there barefoot running around, you know, one little thin thing, and they're right as rain, you know, they're just loving life because, and when they touch your hands, their hands are warm. Like they've got like this internal combustion system. And it used to, and it's not just the kids, it's the adults as well. And it used to baffle me because I would go up to these, you know, glacial mountains and things. And I honestly, I would have so many clothes on that I'd be walking like this, you know, and even in my gloves, I would feel like my hands were frozen. And then my friend would say, take your gloves off and put them in my hands. And it was like putting them in a heater. And I'm like, how do you do that? He said, because we're connected to the land. And it was so true. And so when I was brought to live over there, that was one of the things that was broken down in me, was that I had to let go of this Western idea of comfort zone and disconnection from nature and just keeping it all cozy and everything. And I had to get really connected, allow my body to adjust again, that my body actually knows how to deal with the cold and regulate it, self-regulate it. My body knows how to be in 50-degree heat in Egypt and self-regulate it. And it's incredible now because I used to be quite extreme with it. I used to, I remember one of my exes saying to me, gosh, you have like 2 degrees of comfort. Everything else, you're boiling hot or you're freezing cold. And it was like that. And now I can just, you know, I might feel the cold and I'll be aware of it, but it doesn't cause me discomfort. It doesn't cause me trauma. It's just an awareness and my body adjusts to it. And I think, you know, then when we take that into our broader applications in our life, you know, growth is uncomfortable. You know, when we're challenging ourselves, when we're breaking down these false limitations of who we are, I would love to do that. I would love to do that, but I can't. I'm not this enough, or I'm not that enough, or what if it fails, and all of this. And these false edges of ourselves that we create, which becomes the comfort zone. But ultimately the comfort zone is a prison, you know? And so when this process of going through this reconnection with nature in that way, and that surrender into the trust of my body, even, you know, to know that my body knows how to handle this, it brought it into the broader sense for me of that surrender and that trust of stepping outside the comfort zone and getting very comfortable being uncomfortable, because I've reframed it now, you know, like discomfort is not something to be resisted. Discomfort is something to be leaned towards because it's growth.
That's right. It's almost like, I mean, it's almost like being in a different dimension. Because like you were saying, you know, growth is really painful. And I went through quite a few years, you know, of, and it just comes to my mind, you know, when you're doing a sculpture and you're hitting the rock with a, I don't know, with a chisel or something like that, and you're just hitting. I mean, I just remember that all those years that I was feeling anger, and I don't know, it just felt really, really painful. And then it was like in this other dimension, not that I don't feel anger, not that I don't feel fear, but it's a different dimension. It's not, I'm stuck in it like I was for decades, you know?
For me, that's the difference between resistance and avoidance, which is what causes the pain. I would say growth itself is not painful. We make it painful, right? Because that's our old ego fighting against it. Yeah, the ego wants to keep us small. This is what we know. We're cool with this. Don't go out. Don't go out there. You know, you don't know. Like that's too much. So the pain actually comes from the resistance within ourselves, right? But when we get to what you've discovered is that actually growth is beautiful. You know, there's a part to it where even when you are being broken apart and like you may be, you know, having to express it through tears and crying from the depths of your souls, there's this awareness that it is a shedding, and it's like a death and a rebirth, and you really do expand out of that. So even in all of that feeling, there's so much beauty because it's actually a real gift. And this is the thing of when you really connect with the heart instead of resisting it, when we step into the heart and allow ourselves to feel so fully. I mean, that's what a wondrous thing. What a wondrous thing to be able to feel so much and experience so much. And so it is like a huge shift, because we shift out of the dimension, to use your term, you know, out of the dimension of the ego and into the dimension of like heart connectedness, you know, and the higher self expressing itself.
There's even like more pain, more peace in the pain. You know, for example, I went a few years ago through a death. My mom passed away, and even that time, it was beautiful, really, the allowingness of feelings and emotion, and going that journey without resistance. I don't know, it was just, honestly, it was a gift that I wouldn't have been able to deal with it when I was like a rock. You know what I mean? It would have been death for me. Whereas I actually went with the flow of it, recharging my energy, you know, feeling, it was like a dance, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, you know, the thing is we kind of, most people fear feeling, you know, and I don't know if, I think part of that is kind of like these old programs that have been put into humans to keep us really disempowered, but part of it is the narrative that we grow up with, you know, like we're told, don't cry, you know, okay, pull it together, that's enough now. And we're kind of taught from a young age that it's not safe to express our feelings, or you know, we get told, oh, just get over it. or why are you so sensitive, or, you know, all of these different things. And so we kind of take this on of, it's not okay to feel, and over time that becomes like a wall around the heart. You know, we don't want to go there, we don't want to feel, and to be honest, that's actually what makes life hard. That's what creates the struggle, you know.
Stereotypes.
Sorry,
the stereotypes.
Yeah, but it's when we actually take it on and you know, don't allow ourselves to feel, that's what's painful. I remember when I went into this process of just allowing, as you say, Christian, that word surrender, I mean, that has just been pivotal. Surrender and trust have been my key words of the last 3 years. But when I really went into that process, I remember a point where I was like, oh my gosh, is this how easy life actually is? Is this how effortlessly it flows? Was I the one making it hard for myself? And the answer was yes. You know, I was making it hard for myself because, like so many of us, I wasn't trusting my intuition. I wasn't giving myself permission to follow it. I wasn't allowing myself to go through that beautiful cycle of the death and the rebirth and continue to expand. I was like, you know, wall around the heart, don't want to feel that, that's too hard, push it down. And then, you know, like, again, that's what creates so much sickness in you know, so many Western societies. They don't have that level of sickness. When you get out into the indigenous communities, they don't have that, you know, because they're so connected with the land, and they navigate the things. Yes, they still feel it, like we all still feel it, but you navigate it with more ease and grace because you understand it as like a beautiful weaving of the experience.
And I think it's really interesting.
In those countries is joy. You know what I mean? Joy. And that's something that you go, wow, that joy that you feel, that when you look at someone's eyes, there's clarity, there's joy. Of course, there is suffering, there's poverty. We're not denying any of that, but there's something within you know, like if I think of people from Nepal, the children, or Peru, or, you know, there's joy really, you know, there's love, there's joy. It's really interesting to be able to experience that. Yeah.
Again, I would say that comes from the connection,
Mm.
you know, as Christian was saying earlier, that connection with the elements and everything, you know, when you're so connected, there's so much gratitude in your heart. For me, gratitude is massive in opening the heart and helping people to like really connect in with the heart. And it's joyful, you know, because you start to see beauty all around you. You see, I've watched the kids up there. They don't have laptops, iPads, iPhones, all of this. You know, I watched my goddaughter, who was probably 6 years old at the time. She played for about 3 hours in the rain with one of her little friends in like this little water channel in the mud, making like little boats out of, you know, leaves and chasing them down the little, you know. And I mean, I did that as a kid as well, but so many kids these days, they've lost that simplicity. And there was just the pure joy, the joy of like chasing this little leaf, you know, down the water channel. And so it's that connection of just seeing the enchantment and the beauty and the connection all around you. It unlocks something. Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting, Sia, the simplicity of it, but I actually think there's such beauty in particularly Indigenous cultures about rituals and ceremonies. Like even if it's, for example, in the space that I'm here, where I am at the moment, you can see that there's a whole bunch of tapestry and a whole bunch of tree of life and things, and it creates that place, that sacred place, even if it's tapestry or whatever it is on the walls, or what you wear, or the, like we had a tea ceremony in here about 2 months ago. It was a whole bunch of men after sort of we were allowed to get back together, and there was about 6 or 7 of us here, and we had a tea ceremony, you know, with, I don't know, 2,000-year-old tea leaves. And it was such a beautiful experience, let alone a whole bunch of men being here, sort of, you know, having a men's circle. But the ritual, it was almost like a rites of passage. It was almost like it's something that doesn't happen in Western culture, unlike, you know, Eastern or Indigenous cultures, where there's this sense of bewilderment about ceremony and ritual.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's so interesting that you bring this up, because I'm aiming for next week to actually launch an online course called Live from the Heart and Sacred Ceremony. And it's all about this, because for me, ceremony is a gateway, you know, like our heart is the portal, and our heart must be open in order for us to live in authenticity, and in order for us to live, you know, this truth, this highest path, whatever form that takes. The heart must be open. And ceremony is a gateway, not just to open the heart and bring through the remembering, but it's a gateway of co-creation. So I remember when I first kind of came across ceremony, I was probably in my early 20s, and it was a beautiful, she was my Reiki teacher back in the day. And she had talked to me a bit about ceremony, and I just didn't get it. I had quite an arrogance where I was like, well, you know, I guess that's for people who aren't connected and don't have their gifts open. My gifts are open. I wouldn't need ceremony. You know, it was, I did not get it. I missed the point completely. And I wasn't ready until probably my late 20s, when I started to connect. And it was actually through the Indigenous ways when I went in one of my trips to Peru. And it was like this remembering, you know, this, and it going back to that humility, being humble, you know. And I still would say I didn't fully get it, because at the time I was breaking down a lot of conditioning. So I was like, I don't know that I fully got what that was, but there was something that spoke to my soul. Now I live life as sacred. I live life as ceremony. And like, I really mean that, you know, I bring ceremony into every aspect of my day. I start my morning. There's different acts of ceremony. Like you're saying, there's something like the tea ceremony, which is a full sit down kind of ceremony, but then there's putting objects around. You know, I have my ceremonial objects around me as well, and it brings that connection in, it brings it into your awareness, it brings that sacredness into the space, you know. And I literally bring ceremony to everything. So for example, when I arrive in a new land, like arriving in England, I instantly come into ceremony with the land to introduce myself. You know, I don't just walk mindlessly on the land and, oh yeah, I've just flown here and now I'm going to set up a life here or whatever. You know, I come into ceremony, I introduce myself, I ask the land's permission to be here, I ask the land to receive me, I let the land know that I'm coming with an open heart, you know, and that I'm in my highest service for us to co-create together. And I ground my energy in and bring my energy together with that land through ceremony, you know. And so it's a different way of approaching. Even I remember the Aboriginal elders told us, you know, a number of years back that when you say you're going to go on a bushwalk, you know, you don't just, all right, yep, here's the trail, off we go, la 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 la, you know. Take a moment, go up to, you'll see there'll be a guardian, there'll be a tree or a rock or something that you feel the energy, and go and introduce yourself to the ancestors, ask permission to be able to enter that space, you know, perhaps make a small offering. It's the same, they were saying that often when they drive like a long distance across Australia, they know that they're driving through different mobs' land, you know, so along the way they'll just talk. Hey, you mob, I'm from, you know, this mob, just introducing myself, I'm just passing through XYZ, you know. And I remember when I was told that, I was like, wow, that is so beautiful. And so I do that everywhere. We did one time a 10-hour drive across California. And you when you become in tune, you start to feel the energy shift. And it's like, oh, we're connecting in with different ancestors now. Or you can even see it in the landscape. And then I would speak it, just introducing myself to the ancestors of this land, XYZ, you know. So ceremony it's incredibly empowering in reconnecting us with the heart, reconnecting us with connection and co-creation with everything around us, but also bringing that remembering and bringing that ancestral knowledge through.
And bringing some conscience into it, because we do ceremony anyway, you know what I mean? I mean, when there's a birthday, we blow a candle, you know. There is, when we have a dinner, we might do a prayer, or, I mean, there is ceremony in our daily life sometimes, you know, you're having a cup of tea, but it's just becoming more conscious what we're doing. So becoming more present, you know, with these missed things, no wonder we're not present. It's just becoming more present in what we're doing and the intention, because it's all about the intention, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in this course that I've just developed, it's a deep embodiment exploration of what I sort of, it's been channeled through me. So what I was shown as like kind of the 5 core pillars of embodiment of living through the heart and sacred ceremony. So I'll see if I can remember them off the top of my head. But it's intention, gratitude, presence, co-creation, and authenticity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it really is, when we bring those things together, you know, the intention, the presence, the conscious co-creation, the truth of who we are through our authentic selves, the gratitude with the open heart and the appreciation and humility and just like joy. When we bring all of that together, that really anchors us into living through the heart. And then we become a very conscious co-creator. You know, that word that you said, it's the conscious, you know, approach. Instead of just kind of like going through our day in autopilot, which I think so many do, we realize that there is unlimited magic in every single moment. You know, there really, really is. Even if it's the so-called mundane, you know, of washing the dishes or whatever it is, every moment is sacred. Every moment is full of potent potential and magic. And when we, you know, bring this energy and this approach and this living through the heart to it, we start to live really, that's when you really live on a different dimensional plane. Yeah, because you're not having that 3D experience anymore. You're having a very connected, multi-dimensional co-creation, and you really are remembering yourself as the master creator that you are. So this is again where kind of like, I guess the umbrella of what this leads to is our sovereignty. We realize that, as we've already said, we're not alone. You know, things don't have to be a struggle. You know, there's nothing that we need to fear. We are not powerless. We are not helpless. We are actually incredibly sovereign beings, co-creating our experience and bringing in whatever we wish it to be.
Yeah. And look, and I feel that it's the desire, the wish to be there. Because some of the viewers might be asking, but I'm stuck in this at the moment, or I've got an illness, or I've got, you know, yeah, this is where I am, but it's the desire to create more peace, and it will be a journey.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's so important. Look, I'll share a little bit about my journey. I had 20 years of chronic illness, really debilitating illness. Towards the end, it was to do with very severe allergies, but very severe allergies to airborne things. So there's no way to avoid it. And I even tried immunotherapy. I mean, I tried everything in the book, you know, but they even tried to give me immunotherapy, which is where they inject you with a small amount of the allergen over time to build your immunity. They gave me less than they gave children, and it crashed my immune system. So my immunologist actually said to me, this is a couple of years before I moved to Peru, but he said to me, you need to leave the country. You need to go to high altitude or a very cold climate. And then my doctor, that was the immunologist, but then the doctor said, you're not fit to fly. And so I was like, well, I have to, because otherwise I'm just going to end up, you know, I couldn't work. I gave my notice at my work, and I think I was able to serve about 4 days of my 30 days notice. You know, I was just so incredibly sick. And, you know, so I know those patterns that we get into where, you know, I definitely in that time felt very helpless. I felt like, well, it might be easy for some, but they don't have the health issues that I have, or this or that, you know. And I had part of it had been created for me. There was a box that I was in, you know, so some of it was there from circumstances, but I had accepted that box and I had cemented that box, you know, and I wasn't, I'd kind of gone into that victim state, you know, where I just felt like, you know, what others can do is not available to me because I have this incredible health. And, you know, for some people it might be more about abundance, or it might be more about family situations. The actual limitation isn't so important, but it's about the stories that we tell ourselves and the limitations that we put on ourselves. Because, yeah, you know, so many people doing incredible things have had limitations put, like, that they found themselves in that most would never even imagine getting past. But it's that choice, as you say, it's that desire, but it's also the commitment. You know, I am choosing to create a different life. I don't accept this. I don't accept being sick all the time, being constantly on medication, not even being able to work anymore. I don't accept that. That's not the reality that I came here to live, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, it really is up to us. We are the ultimate, you know, no one can do it for us. It really is up to us, and giving that permission. And so for me, I actually had to really like have such strong desire, because I ended up working with an Amazonian medicine called Cambo, which is a frog medicine. And I felt a lot of, not so much fear, but I felt that there was a possibility that I would be allergic to that as well, you know, and that might actually, maybe I wasn't going to make it through the treatment. But I had such a commitment and a trust of, this is not the life I came here to live. And I know that it's within my power to change it. And it turned out to be the thing that cured me. It completely realigned my immune system, and I've been completely medication free for close to 4 years now. I would say even 4 years.
Wow.
And that was after 20 years of extreme illness, you know. So I do want people to know that anything that you think is a barrier or a limitation that you cannot get past, I promise you, you can, but you have to take off the chains around your thinking and your mind. And I come back to that word, Christian, the surrender, you know, like allowing yourself to sink into the trust. You are not alone, you know, come into the trust. And so for me, whenever, this is again where I really draw on ceremony. I live through ceremony. So it's not something I just do when I want to ask for something. I bring ceremony and gratitude and co-creation and consciousness to everything that I do. But if I hit a barrier, like I say, when I was stuck in Peru and I needed to get to a first world country and borders were closed and there was no way, right? And so most people would have, after months of going back with the UK embassy and the airline and, you know, not being able to get anywhere, most people would have just gone, well, I'm just a victim of this situation. But I went, I'm coming into ceremony. I'm coming into ceremony and I'm going to consciously co-create this because I know I'm a sovereign being, you know? So I think that's for me, the answer is always in that connection through the heart, in the ceremony, and the way will be brought forward. And as you say, it's a journey. That's so important. You know, I think sometimes people think if it doesn't happen straight away, I'm not going to get there. But, you know, I've really learned that there is no destination, you know, there is no destination. As I said before, every gift, every greatest blessing, every magic happens in the moment, you know, it is in the now moment. The journey is actually the destination. You know, it's all about the journey. And so when we bring that, you know, the presence, the gratitude, the co-creation, the authenticity to the present moment, and we honor the journey and we have that surrender to allowing it to unfold, we kind of take off the shackles.
It's challenging those limited beliefs.
Yes.
You talk about limitations, the limited beliefs, and what our mind tells we can't do. And I think, you know, whether you're a man or a woman or whatnot, it's been able to look at that and go, well, we're here for a higher purpose at the end of the day. And I think that's the gift that we've all got. And particularly in the context of being International Mental Health Month, there's a combination of wanting to reach out yourself and try to get yourself or transform or transition into a higher vibration and a higher and whatnot. But it's also, I think it's really important, particularly if, for example, you were working on living with 20 years of, you know, allergies. It's also important for those in your circle to be empathetic whilst you navigate that, because it's so easy to fall into victim mode. If you may have gone into that and go, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. But I think it's really important, particularly in the context of mental health, is it can become so so difficult to deal with, that it's really important for the people alongside you, family members, friends, and the people that you surround yourself with are not necessarily going to fall into that depth of despair with you, but to actually walk alongside you and be empathetic to your journey.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I feel to bring it, you can see there's a TV behind me.
My words were too powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Taking down the veil. You know, like to really bring it back to the spiritual aspect of that. We are all here to lift each other, right? And we are all here to help each other remember. So I do think, obviously, we don't want to ever be an enabler, because if we're an enabler, then we just feed a person's victim story. But we do need to have that empathy and work together. And so I truly believe, and this is very much shared in the book as well, that our highest service, regardless as to what form it takes in terms of our vocation or our career or anything like that, but our actual highest service is to be in our highest frequency and our highest vibration, and to be in our highest wholeness. Because when we are, and this is the word embodiment is pivotal for me, embodiment, yeah? Because when we are in that highest embodiment ourselves, we lift everyone around us. They see, you know, it's like, it's like that old saying, be the change you want to see in the world, right? So people who are maybe struggling around us, if they see the way that we handle our struggles, it gives them a different perspective. It gives them a way to go, okay, maybe there is another way to approach this. And they may even reach out and have a conversation about that, you know? So it's not, I do believe absolutely we've got to, you know, be there and be each other's support systems and community. Community is so important, but it's not about preaching to people or trying to drag people forward, you know, because we have to respect everyone's journey. But when we come into this embodiment within ourselves and we are actually holding that frequency and living in that way, it naturally lifts others, and it naturally encourages those conversations. And I think this is where authenticity becomes really important as well. I personally, people don't know, well, people who are close to me know this, but I think a lot of other people wouldn't. I'm a massive introvert, and I was a very private person, you know, and that might be surprising to some people, because anyone who knows my work knows that I share very vulnerably and very openly about my own journey. This wasn't necessarily something that I went, yeah, I want to do that, you know. This was something that was guided. So I was guided this when I was channeling the book. The Rainbow Race said to me, you need to include a story of your own life at the beginning of each chapter, to demonstrate the embodiment of kind of the remembering that they were sharing. And at the time I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's really putting myself out there. Oh my gosh, you know, but it was very strong guidance. And so much, I mean, I get such incredible feedback about this book. People say it literally has transformed their lives. But one of the things that so many people comment on is, I really enjoyed reading your story, because it puts the humanness in it, and it's something that people can relate to. And so again, this year when I was in January, I went to Uluru in the Northern Territory, and I kind of had this experience where the ancestors were sort of, I could see them like standing there, all the males standing there with their spears, and they weren't so welcoming. And I'm like, guys, you've called me here. Is there something I can do to, like, you know, is there something you need from me in order for me to be welcomed to the land? And they said two things. The first thing they said is, yes, you must share our cosmic history. And I said, well, I have. That's one of the chapters in the book. I said, I have. It's in the book. And they said, no, you must share it for everyone, whether they buy the book or not. And so they were telling me that I needed to record a video and put it on YouTube. And I again, that was very confronting for me, because it's the most cosmic chapter of the whole book. And so for me, you know, where I was really just starting to fully own who I am and what I'm sharing, I was like, ooh, I can't pretend to be normal after that. You know, it felt like, well, if someone's going to buy the book, that's a different thing. They're really connecting in with that. But if I just put that out on YouTube, but they really said to me, you need to commit to that. And I did. And I put it out there, and it's had thousands of views. And then the other thing that they said to me a couple of days later was they said, we're going to need you to start sharing more about your experiences and the work that you do, and particularly in terms of the earth service work that I do. And they it's funny that fell down at that point, because they talked about, you're going to have to pull back the curtain, you know. And again, I was like, oh God, that's so uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. But as I said at the beginning of the conversation, I came into this commitment to say yes to, you know, if I've made a commitment that I'm going to walk my highest path and I'm going to be of my highest service, then when I'm being told that something is that highest service, I need to say yes, no matter how, you know, challenging it might feel. And what I've really seen is that as I've shared more, you know, and I'm very much guided what to share, but as I've shared more, it has been so healing for other people. You know, I've got, I'm sure you guys are aware, I've got a private Facebook group called the Rainbow Tablets, Rainbow Frequency Stabilizers. And so I share a lot of things in there, cosmic things, earth service, personal experiences. And the feedback from people has been incredibly humbling. And I realized that this is what the ancestors were showing me, that we have to walk in authenticity and allow ourselves to be seen. You know, it's not just about embodying this incredible connection and wholeness and then just enjoying it for ourselves behind closed doors. You know, and it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be everyone's path to be sharing it in that way, but we all come in contact with people in different ways, you know. So it's the conversations that we have with our you know, family, our close friends, our colleagues, and those moments where we may feel that, oh, there's something that I should share here, or I feel that if I shared this would be really helpful for this person, but oh no, I wouldn't normally do that, so I'll just, you know, I'll just censor myself. And so we're really being called into this co-creation, this amplification of the frequencies that we are holding, so that we're all in service to each other. Yeah, and as we do, we lift each other, and it means that the people like us who have had these opportunities to go to these indigenous lands, or to go and, you know, to these sacred sites like Egypt and all of that, and have these experiences, we can bring that remembering and that frequency and share it with people who may not have that chance to go there. And it's how we share it. It's like this beautiful, like all the lights, you know, kind of like lighting up, instead of just keeping it for ourselves.
And also, I think, Sia, we have had, I think, decades, especially, I don't know, since the 60s, decades of a lot of learning, you know what I mean? A lot of information about peace, about energy, a lot of information. I feel that we are at a time that we need to start embodying that.
Yes.
You know, it's not just, it's not enough to just, I feel peace when I'm meditating, but okay, I'm in the middle of, I mean, we got 5 children between Christian and myself, 5 teenagers. We got our relationship together. We got our relationship with the father of our children and the mother of our children. And it's just embodying that every moment of our lives. If I'm talking about peace, can I come back to peace when I lost the plot, when I had an argument or something happened, you know what I mean? And that practice, that constant practice, bringing myself back to peace, and to all those things that I learned intellectually.
Mm-hmm. This is key. This is absolutely key. And like I said, embodiment has been like my catchphrase because, you know, and again, this is exactly what I share in the course, Live from the Heart and Sacred Ceremony, is that it's about 5 pillars of embodiment. Because too many of us, and I was one of these people for a long time, we have our 2 lives. We have our day-to-day, how we react to things, how we react to the conflict, and and, you know, getting things done. And then we have our spiritual side.
Yes.
And we're like, oh, I'm feeling a bit drained, I'll go to a sound healing, or I'm feeling a bit drained, or I'm just not feeling so connected. I'll go to a retreat, or, you know, and we have these little pings of the sacred or pings of ceremony. But they just sit over here in this separate space, and then we come back and we just live in this three-dimensional, less connected way. And what is so important now, and what is being asked of us, is to bring that together. And this is why I talk about live life as sacred, you know, live life as ceremony. It's not about having those moments of the sacred or the moments of connection or meditation to realign ourselves. It's about embodying that frequency and living from that frequency. And yes, there will always be things that kind of like throw us, but we realign it instantly. We don't, like, you know, kind of plod along for the rest of the day and project that onto other people because I'm in a bad mood, I just had this bad experience, and which is the old unconscious behavior, right? It really is deep embodiment. And, you know, so one of the things when I share about authenticity is radical self-responsibility, right? We have to be, you know, like, it's very easy to see when someone else is projecting or someone else is acting out their triggers. Hey, what about here, you know? Like, being very aware of those moments that we might be getting triggered, or we might be about to lash out or to retreat, and realigning in that moment, you know? So that's where the embodiment comes in. We stop having these unconscious patterns and then leaning towards the sacred to help us come back into a frequency for a certain period of time until we come out of alignment again. Instead, we live in that embodiment. It's, oh, Nancy, it's so key.
And I think it's important, Sia, too, like, that's beautiful how you use that spirituality in the day-to-day life. I mean, I've worked in technology, so I'm a bit very, very much in headspace, and it's amazing how over the last year I've been able to integrate more of myself into my work environment, to the point that I'm on their health and wellbeing strategy group, which is, I would have never have thought this last year. And and I'm very open with being able to, it's a bit like what you were saying, and Nancy always uses the term walk your talk. You know, they call me the mindfulness man at work, right? And it's opened up conversations in the corridor, you know, where I might have a chap that I don't really have much to do with on a work environment, but because he, you know, I don't know, it's those conversations you have around the water cooler, right? And it's those things where you recognize, you know what, I've integrated more of my life into my work environment, and so work doesn't seem like as corporate as maybe it had felt in the past, to the point where just, you know, maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago I was thinking, yeah, I might leave that job, and now it's like, well, you know, all the intrinsic stuff that I've been able to bring now to the organization with it about me, it's just manifested in such a beautiful way now. And it's so important, as you said, to integrate, you know, because often many of us have a day-to-day job, right? Obviously the next part is how you integrate it in family life and relationships. That's also obviously another part that's really, it's probably the most strongest triggers, because you're so deeply entrenched and involved with your partner and with the kids, that the deeper you go into love is often the deeper you resist love, and those triggers are a lot stronger.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to comment on that, because it's you've just nailed it, you know. So just in terms of the workplace stuff, you know, this is what I was talking about before, about we can't keep this stuff locked away to ourselves and just keep presenting a persona or a mask and living this fragmented life, you know, because those water cooler conversations can be life-changing for the other person. It really can. And I saw this myself in my last year in corporate. That was when I made the decision. I'm not going to be disconnected within myself. I'm not going to be a fragmented person anymore. I'm just going to be me. And I was, you know, like you say, you've got your kind of way that people perceive you. I was kind of like the quirky one, and oh, she's the hippie and this and that. People would seek me out, you know, people who weren't even in my team, to have conversations and things. And I remember one girl there, she was a bit younger than me. sort of saying, God, I feel like every time I talk to you, I should be paying you, like, you know. And it was just this beautiful thing that I saw, like, oh my gosh, I've been resisting this all my life because I didn't want to get found out as the different one, or, you know, like not be taken seriously in the workplace. But actually what it did was it brought much needed, it was like the breath of fresh air, you know, and it was also giving others permission to be more authentic in themselves, because yeah, they're our colleagues, but everyone's a person, you know, and they've got their stuff, and yeah, we have all of these different relationship dynamics with people, colleagues, family, friends, etc., these different dynamics. But we don't have to prescribe to the old ways when we show up, you know, embodied and authentic in all of those situations. We actually lift and help everyone. We bring something into their sphere of being that they may not otherwise have access to. So I just think that's so incredibly important. Gosh, I'm trying to think of, yes, another thing that you had said was about having quite an intellectual job. You know, I have clients who are, I've got an engineer client, I've got another client that's an accountant, and what I found with those more kind of like analytical type jobs is that, yeah, it might be a little bit harder to get into the heart at the beginning because they're so used to being here. But actually, when they start to come into that connection and awaken more of themselves, it propels their work to another level. Because now, instead of just approaching it from the mind and the thinking aspect, they're bringing like this awareness to it that kind of like brings a creativity and an inner knowing to the work, and it presents solutions, you know, like that are more creative. So it actually elevates the work. And I think, you know, for some people, they might feel, oh, well, because of what my job is, I can't just go off and be an airy-fairy person. So I can't go down this track. I can't, you know, I've got to, maybe this is something I can do when I retire, but for now, you know, I've got to keep myself in that space. But it's not that at all. We don't lose one and become something else. We bring more to the offering, you know, and we actually elevate anything that we bring our energy to. And yeah, you know, in the family stuff, again, I've got clients who are, you know, a lot of my clients are parents. And one of the beautiful things that I've seen is that as the parents start to remember and they start to re-embody things, it filters down to the kids. And that is the biggest gift, because I mean, I'm not a parent myself, but I know from the people I work with that for most parents, their greatest wish is to be the best guide and support for their child that they can be, so that their child can be anything that they want to be, that they can be in their full expression. So that when that everything that you know we're embodying as parents filters down to the kids, it really helps them to not have to go through the amount of healing that we have had to go through, right? Because they're not going to have to go through the same amount of social conditioning and being told to be something that they're not, and all of those pressures. They're not going to have to go through what we went through, our parents went through, our grandparents. We're changing the whole structure so that they can actually flourish. I mean, this is the concept that people talk about with New Earth. You know, it's a new way of being, of this unity, this love, this connection. And the practicality and embodiment of it is, as you say, Christian, it really does start in our family homes. And so, you know, I've got this incredible client who has just started doing ceremonies with her kids. You know, I think one's around about 9, and then the other one's a bit younger than that. These kids love it, you know, because kids connect with this stuff. They already have the remembering. They haven't lost it yet. So, you know, and even as teenagers, I remember when I was probably in my 20s, and a couple of my niece and one of my nephews were in their teens. They loved to have healing sessions with me, or for me to teach them meditation. Any chance they got, tell me about this, tell me about that. And I mean, you don't think, one was a boy and one was a girl. So it's, you know, this is not what you typically expect from teenagers, but they're hungry for it. And if they've got access to it, it's like, you know, it just changes their whole trajectory of their life, because suddenly they're not having to spend the next 10 or 15 years peeling back all the layers, going through all of the healing, going through all of the, you know, deconstructing the limiting beliefs. They can just continue to rise in that way. So the embodiment ripples out to everyone around us. You know, we literally, through our own embodiment and being in our highest frequency in ourselves and being really committed to this journey back to wholeness within ourselves, we ripple that out to our colleagues, we ripple it out to our family, we ripple it out to our friends. And this is how we change the world. It's through embodiment.
Yes, yes. And look, I think, I don't know, it just seems that this year, and even from the year 2000, it's just there, you know what I mean? It's our choice to choose this way of life and this way of being, or just keep suffering. You know, it's almost, I mean, it's there, it's really available. I mean, I remember last century, you know what I mean, in the 90s, and I couldn't see it, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it was the surroundings, maybe it was I was very blocked, but I feel that at the moment it's there, you know what I mean? We're having these conversations, people that
sorry, this is the ripple effect. I think, you know, it was there years back, but not at the same magnitude. But as more and more embody, it ripples it out, ripples it out, ripples it out. So suddenly it's so much more accessible for everyone. So I absolutely agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
It's really accessible and available. And, you know, it comes back to that radical self-responsibility. What am I choosing? What am I choosing? Am I going to commit to making this experience the best that it possibly can be? Or am I going to, you know, keep repeating the patterns that you know, it's like a slow death, but a slow death that never gets to that point of the rebirth, you know? And I just, I think it's like, one of the things that came in for me a few years back that really changed things for me was, I thought, if I died tomorrow, what would I think of what I did with my time here? Would I be happy with what I'd done with my time here? And the answer was no. I would have been full of regrets, because I had known for so long that what I was doing was not my calling. It was what was expected of me and what I had been told I was meant to do. But it wasn't what I came here to do. And I was like, well, I don't want to get to the end of my life and feel that. So that's when I really made that commitment to say yes, whatever is asked of me, whatever. And I've had so many of those moments of being brought to my knees, but like you say, you know, embracing it instead of resisting against it and feeling it as a really painful, awful experience. I've leaned into it and allowed it to be the full expression, but to see the beauty in it, because I knew I was growing. And so now, when if I were to die tomorrow, I would look back at my life and say, I'm really happy with what I did. You know, everything on top of it is just icing on the cake. And the other thing that I've realized is the last, probably, I would say I really started stepping onto, like, really committing to my path about 5 years ago. Yeah. And I mean, the first couple of years were gradual, and then it was just like, yeah. But I can honestly, hands down, say, for the last 5 years, at the end of each year, I've looked back and gone, wow, that was the best year of my life. And you know what? This might sound crazy to say, but I still feel the same about this year. You know, even with everything that's happened, this has been the best year of my life so far. And I feel like that's the power of committing to your journey and committing to your path and really embodying it, is that when you are in your highest service and you are walking your highest path, everything is going to be the best that it's ever been. You know, whatever breadth of experience comes with it, because it is your highest path. So there's no point when you're on your highest path where you're like, well, that was like, I went backwards, because you can't go backwards when you're on your highest path. Everything is forwards, and it might not all be like joy and unicorns and fairy dust, you know. There might be some really intense moments, but they bring you out into a greater opening. And so for me, you know, what am I going to feel when I look back at my life? If I feel anything less than like really happy with what I've done, I need to make a change, because I don't want to get to that point of regret. And now my catchphrase is, well, what else am I going to do with my time here? You know, so anytime I'm feeling that push to step up into something bigger or something maybe a little bit uncomfortable, or, you know, I'm like, okay, cool. What else am I going to do with my time here? You know, like, let's make the most of it. Let it be joyful. Let it be expansive. Let it be the biggest thing that it could possibly be, because you don't want to get to the end of your life and go, man, I went down to earth in the middle of the Great Awakening. It was like the biggest mission in the entire universe, and I just phoned it in.
That's true. And when you, I mean, I agree with you. Honestly, this year, I don't know, it's been an amazing year for me as well. With all the challenges that we had, even with Christian and our relationship, and trying to understand each other and disconnecting and connecting. And it was like, and then it was like, oh, okay, we're here, you know. I don't know, it's just been an amazing year for us too. And when we stop, you know, like that with each other and with the kids, this world opened, you know what I mean? That we've been doing many things. I don't know, it's just, it seems like fun, you know what I mean? Yes. There's always something fun to do, and ideas come up, you know?
Yeah, and you know, that's it. This, again, you know, I come back to what they've shared in the book. They talk about the fact that this is joyful, you know, this is an adventure. Actually, there's a favorite passage that I have in here. If I can just quickly find it, I would love to share it. I have it tagged in my other book, but I just had to give away my other book. Yeah, I just want to read you a little passage, maybe, because I think, you know, this is something that so many of us forget. We get bogged down in the, oh, I got to get it right, and I got to do the work, and it's so heavy, and la la la. And we create this story. But just to add on what you're saying, you know, they talk about the fact that we are the great masters who've chosen to come to earth. We're the ones coming to break the old ways. You know, we're breaking down the old patterns, but we had to do it by coming into them and break them from the inside, you know? And they say, although all of this may seem very big, it is what you came here to do. There is no need to place pressure on yourself. If you try to share what you have not embodied yourself, you will slip back into ego. We encourage you to trust and relax in the knowing that you hold all you need within. This is the best part of the experiment, the remembering and return to your rainbow frequency, the all essence. Enjoy it. You have endured eons in separation, waiting for this moment. Let it be joyous. Feel all of it. That moment of remembering yourself is pure bliss. Savor it. Love is the purpose of everything. Enjoy it, be free, create, use your magic. Earth is a wonderland, a playground. Play, dance, laugh, love. Enjoy the fullness of it. Be in wonder, in love with it all, for all is love. What a wonderful experience you have chosen, to come down here in a human body, agreeing to forget it all just so you can remember and rediscover that you are the all. You are everything, and everything is love. There is no separation. It is an illusion, and when you choose to unsee it, it ceases to exist. This is just a moment in time. All will be brought back to wholeness. It has been a journey of eons, but at the same time, just the blink of an eye. The point of it all is to experience and to remember. Experience and create. This is your playground.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And you know, I want to say thank you, Sia. And you know that, I mean, before we finish, I wanted to say it's never late. You know, I mean, I just want to share about Cleopatra, which is a beautiful woman that I adore, and it's Christian's mom. And she recently met this beautiful man from Peru, actually, at 80, okay, at 80 years old. And they got married. She went to Peru. They came back. They spent their days writing poems. looking at flowers. She was a bit of, when I met her a few years ago, she was in a bit of pain because she had a relationship many years ago. She was holding pain, but she just flowered. I always tell her, you are the daughter of the woman that I met, because she's even younger, you know?
Amazing. It's so true. It's never too late, you know, and we can make this experience as beautiful and magical and wonderful as we want to. So let's all just give ourselves permission to do it, you know, like,
We all want to be happy, so let's do it, you know. What else? I mean, why wait?
What else are we going to do with our time here, right? Guys, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you, Sia-Lanu. Honestly, it's beautiful. I feel really uplifted, and it's such a beautiful way to finish this month for us. We had amazing presenters sharing their wisdom like you shared today, and I don't know, it's been such a blessing for us.
Keep on planting those seeds, and sharing love, and sharing our passion, sharing our purpose, and just allowing ourselves to be authentic and vulnerable in this crazy world.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for inviting me. And I just want to let people know that if they do want to connect with me, I am on YouTube and Instagram, and then I have the private Facebook group called the Rainbow Tablets Rainbow Frequency Stabilizers. And if they do want to, take a look at the book, because I just feel that this is such beautiful remembering for everyone, they can do that at my website. So it's just my name, Sia-Lanu.com. So
we'll definitely put the link. We'll put the link in the comments and everything. So yeah.
And we definitely invite people to follow what you're doing, because I've been doing some of your activations, and they're like, oh wow, amazing. And thank you. I just want to thank you for doing that for us, for downloading all that wisdom, sharing it with us so we can all benefit. Thank you, honestly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You know, it's I mean, I was told that it's so important that those of us who have been called, like you, Christian, have been called to different places to embody things, that then we need to make that accessible to all. So that's why I have lots of different ways that people can engage. There's, all of these free activations and things that they can just access at any time. There's the book, there's going to be the online courses. It's so that we're just all lifting each other, and every time I've been given, I am a channel. So a lot of what I receive from, beautiful, incredible star beings who are assisting us. And they've always said to me, this is not for you to sit on. This belongs to everyone. And if we're going to share it with you, we need you to share it with others, So it's a co-creation. We're creating a completely new way of being. And I just love it. And I love what you guys do. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sia. And look, there's a commitment that Nancy and I made several years ago with the music we'd been writing, and it was been sitting in on a laptop or on lyrics and whatever. And that was a commitment we made probably 2 years ago. We said, this has just got to be shared. And that's what we've been doing. And that's just one aspect of our journey together. And this beautiful Conversations from Home that Nancy started back in March, actually. And then this month just somehow just lend itself, and this is what's manifested. And people like yourself, Sia, that have graciously providing their time, but also just being part of that. I remember that movie that said, if you build it, they will come. I can't remember what movie it is. They build a baseball thingy. Yeah. And that's actually how I see it. You build it and people will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, people are hungry for it. We're all, so ready for this remembering, for this new way of being. And so that being in that higher service, that saying yes, that build it and they will come. Absolutely. I fully agree. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Wonderful evening there. Wonderful evening. And just sending much, much love.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a beautiful day, and thank you everybody that followed through the month and even tonight. Thank you so much, and many blessings, and we'll be seeing you again. See ya, beautiful Sia-Lanu.
Ciao.
See you later. Bye.